How can I have humility in my relationships? What's going on, you guys? Today, let's talk humility. We're going to outline a little bit about what actual humility is and what a false sense of humility is. And then we're going to get into the details of how you can use it to strengthen your relationships. Hey guys, I'm Tyler, your wandering therapist. I'm excited to be here with you today. I wish you could feel the air that I'm standing in right now. It's a beautiful spring morning out here in Cache Valley, Utah. The sun's just cresting up over the mountains. You probably hear some of the birds in the background. It's just a beautiful morning. And I wholly endorse, just because I'm out here enjoying it, that if you've got some place where you can get to nature today, I'd encourage you to get out and explore that a little bit. But today, let's talk humility. This is an interesting topic because some people view humility as a weakness. Other people view humility as beating themselves up. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about what actual humility is and why it's a benefit, not only for us personally, but in our relationships. Most people, if you talk to somebody and ask them what humility is, or if you hear somebody or think of the most humble person you know, what happens with humble people? Humble people are often seen as sometimes poor, they're sometimes seen as weak, they're sometimes seen as less than, and oftentimes we define ourselves as humble if we beat ourselves up and don't take credit for any good that we do in this world. And I would suggest to you that this is an inaccurate view of what actual humility is. As I've studied and as learned, as I've gone through my own personal process, I've come to believe that humility is one of the greatest attributes and principles that we can live by, because it leads to gratitude, and it leads to connection, and it leads to the ability to grow because we have an accurate understanding of who we are. So here's a definition of humility that I'd suggest you consider. Humility is an accurate knowledge of knowing exactly who we are in God's eyes. It's understanding not only our weaknesses, of course understanding what our weaknesses are is part of it, but it's also understanding our strengths. It's understanding who we are in God's eyes and what I bring to the table in life and what other things I might need to work on. And so when I'm accurately in touch with who I am, I'm able to use my talents and strengths for the benefit of other people. And I'm also able to give myself permission to go to work on the things that I'm not quite so good at. So if we're taking our questions about who we are to a higher source, to God, and we're getting our answers back, then we can have an accurate idea of the things that we need to work on, and we also get to keep and hold on to those things that we're really good at. So I used to struggle with this in the past. People would come to me and they'd say things like, "Tyler, you're so good at listening," or "Tyler, you're the hardest worker that I know, and what would you say because you wanted to be humble?" No, I'm not. Somebody else works harder than me, or somebody else is kinder than me, or somebody else listens more than me, thinking that that was humility. But in reality, that's a counterfeit of humility. Because the truth is that I was good at listening, and I am a hard worker. And I know that that sounds arrogant when you say it out loud, at least in the world that we live in, but the truth is that those things are actually true. There are some other things that I could work on. I could definitely learn to be more sensitive. I could learn to be a little bit more in touch with people sometimes. I could learn to take more time in my relationships. Those are all things that God has told me that I need to work on as well. And when I understand both of those things, I become a better instrument. And it allows me to continually be a work in progress. So let's apply this concept of humility to relationships. What happens when your partner comes to you and says something critical? Maybe your spouse, maybe your wife or your husband has come to you recently and said, "Boy, you do a terrible job of cleaning the house." Or, "Wow, for being my partner, you don't listen very well." If we are humble in the sense that we know who we are in God's eyes, we can take that criticism, and instead of getting defensive, and when we get defensive, we do a couple of things. Usually in relationships, we either shrink away and try to disappear, or we get defensive and we attack back, and then we end up in some type of a fight or a disagreement. Either one of those things leads to more disconnection. But if I instead take that criticism and I apply it to my system of finding humility, I can then take that to God and I can say, "Hey God, do I need to learn how to listen better? Or could I do better at helping out around the house a little bit?" And if the answer comes back yes, with a curious question, then we can go back to our partner and we can say, "You know what? You're right about that. That's something I can improve on." It's really hard to fight with somebody when you're able to step into the same space with them and agree on whatever principle of truth is actually there. It doesn't mean we have to beat ourselves up and think we're a total failure as a husband or a wife or as a partner. It simply means that with that one aspect of my life and in my relationship, I'm now being given the opportunity by my spouse to take a look at those things and to roll them through the system that I have of asking God if those are things that I need to work on. And in doing so, I build trust in my relationship. It feels safe and secure when I can talk with somebody and it's not going to get defensive. I get the opportunity to continue to grow, which is exactly the whole reason we were put on this earth to do. And it allows me to then strengthen myself and become a better instrument in the context of my relationships. If I'm now being pointed out that I can learn how to listen, and then I agree that that's true, and then I go to work on learning how to listen, it circles back around into my relationship where I'm now allowed to have a deeper connection with my partner because they were willing to share with me what their concerns were, and I was willing to listen because I already know who I am. I already know that besides needing to be a better listener sometimes, I'm still a good person deep down at the core with all of these other skills and attributes. So ask yourself if you've talked to God lately, and ask Him if you've gotten a true assessment of who you are, not just with your weaknesses, but with your strengths. Because in knowing your strengths and your weaknesses, you're now able to be an instrument in God's hands for good. You're also able to be in a continued process of growth, which is the whole reason we were sent here. So, challenge for you guys, have a conversation with God and ask Him what your strengths and your weaknesses are. And then take a moment and step into your relationships, and the next time you get some criticism, express some gratitude and ask yourself the genuine question if those things are actually true and if that's something you can improve on. You guys have an awesome day. Thank you so much for being here with me. If you found this to be valuable for you, please hit the like and subscribe button. If you're facing particular struggles that you need help with or roadblocks that you're running into, please submit a question. I'd be happy to answer it for you.